Welcome back. In my last video, I showed a couple clips of my anchor locker and kind of alluded to the fact that I probably will be putting in a windlass for 2021. So what I've done is I started putting together a list of the different things I would need to buy. Started investigating what type of windlass I would like, starting with either a vertical or horizontal, how much room I have in my locker, taking measurements. When I was at the boat the last time, just getting it ready for winter, I made some sketches and took a lot of measurements. And I took those measurements and I laid out a full scale drawing, which I'll show here. And from that, I also downloaded probably the windlass I will probably buy in terms of the template, the mounting template. It was a full-size template, so I could then lay that over top of the drawing that I made just to see how would I angle it, where would it go, what would be in the way, what I might have to take off the boat, trying not to take anything off the boat if I didn't have to. And so I came up with some ideas. I'll call it a 80% probability of that's the way I'm going to go, but I certainly want to open this up to comments from you viewers, and especially the ones who have been down this road, have put in windlasses, or have at least investigated it, pros and cons and things like that. So I would appreciate that feedback. I have not bought anything, so don't feel like, oh my God, I just told him that anchor windlass is a piece of crap. He's gonna be already bought it. So I haven't. I have my opinion. I did my research, but certainly everybody else has done research, and there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of reviews. Unfortunately, the unit I'm looking at, I could not find a video on this particular model in terms of installing it. So I had a couple of questions. I think I know the answer, but I couldn't find anything online that actually showed it. But anyway, what I've decided on, at least the main thing, I'm looking at a Maxwell HRC FF8. So it's I think it's 600, is it 600 watts, 9,000 pound pull, which is about right for my boat. I didn't want to go overkill. I know anchoring, a lot of people do kind of go overkill for like heavy windy conditions and storms and stuff like that, but that's not my sailing style. I'm a fair weather sailor. I don't really go out if there's going to be major storms, and if one does pop up, I try to find a very protected anchorage. But anyway, that's the model I'm looking at. It's a horizontal unit. It will mount on top of the deck. So I know the pros and cons of vertical and horizontal. The horizontal, everything is right there on deck to work on, but it's also all exposed to the weather because it's right there on deck to work on. My anchor locker is certainly large enough to handle the chain and all that, but the opening to the anchor locker is like that. It's like maybe a foot wide by maybe 16 inches high. So I can't get my body in there. Everything would be reaching in with my hands overhead on my back. It would be hard. I honestly don't think I could do it myself, and I would like to do this myself. I think it'd be a really neat project. So because of that, I've kind of said, yeah, no, vertical windlass, yeah, that's probably preferred, but it would be very hard for me to install that. So anyway, I've decided on this horizontal windlass. So you can see from the drawing, and I have it right here, I'm going to raise it up probably about 2 inches. I have a lot of teak, really wide pieces of teak. They're 1 inch thick, they're rough sawn, so what I will do probably is just plane them to clean them up and then stack 2 layers. And that will raise it 2 inches and get it about as high as the bulwarks of the boat. That way the chain coming back from the anchor won't be going down, even though it won't go down much. It may not even go down at all because the windlass, the top of the windlass would be at least 4 or 5 inches. So it probably might be level. But getting it up and getting a downward angle obviously is even better. Gets a little more wrap around the windlass. So anyway, that's what I'm doing, and I'll show you some other ideas I have in terms of the different hardware. So once again, here's the full-size drawing I made. Here in blue is the outline of the windlass. That's everything is full size. There's it's like a metal cone that comes up like this, and it's made to hold the boom for my stay sail. My main jib roller furling is all the way out on the bowsprit. It's out, like from here, it's like 3 feet out. But this cone holds the boom. Now, I don't use my stay sail. The main reason is when the forestay connects right here for that stay sail. The main reason is you can see this wire would be going right here, and I only have about another 3 feet to the main jib or jib. And so when I tack with that wire, I many times I have to roll the jib in, tack, then unfurl it again. And I did that one season, and it was like, wow, what a pain in the butt this is. So I took the forestay wire, and it's lashed to the mast in the back. So as a result of not using the staysail, this cone, which has a flange around it and a few bolts in it, I'm going to take that off. I don't think there's a hole in the deck under it. There wouldn't be a reason. I mean, the only holes are going to be in this bolt. So but I'll take that off. That way it'll give me all this area right here to mount the windlass. Underneath the deck, back here in dashed line, is the bulkhead. So the door into the chain locker would be over here. So I should be able to get the bolts to hold this down inside the chain locker. The cables would come up here. I'll probably route the cables over this way and then in. Chain pipe, not a problem. That'll fall right into my locker. These up here are existing hawse pipes. At first I thought I would take them out, maybe put a piece of teak all the way back here. But I thought, no, it'll fit here. It's not going to be in the way. So I think I'm just going to leave these hawse pipes here. I think the chain will go right over top of this hawse pipe. I'll add a piece of stainless steel here all the way out to the anchor, just to act as kind of a rub protection. The cleats that I have up forward, port and starboard, they can remain in place. The pulpit stanchion supports can stay in place. Even the staysail forestay connection, that can stay in place. That way, if I ever do decide to use a staysail, I can still hook it up. I just won't have a boom. It'll just be what would you call that? An unfooted boom. So, and I'm going to use a remote, one of these plug-in remotes. I really don't have a lot of room for big switches, foot switches, and I really didn't want to make 2 more big holes in the boat. So I think a remote's going to work well. I'm going to have either another remote back at the helm, or maybe just a switch back at the helm. As far as wiring is concerned, I'm going to do a lot of rewiring. My batteries, currently I believe they use like a number 2 AWG wire that goes to the battery switch. So I think, and that's probably okay for number 2, because whenever I start the engine, or even if I'm going to use the windlass, I would have the selector on both. So definitely I would have enough cross-sectional area to run, and it's 60. I think it's 60 amps is what the windlass takes. But all the wires that are running to the battery, or I'm sorry, to the windlass motor, I'm going to use number 1. I probably could have gotten by with number 2, but I really want a low voltage drop. I'm trying to stay below 3%, which I think is conservative for something like a motor, but I don't want to overheat this motor because I have a high voltage drop in this line. I'm probably going to put the solenoid up near the windlass, even though they recommend not putting it in the anchor locker. I was going to buy a IP68 or 67 enclosure, and I think that may be the reason, maybe the moisture, or it could just be they don't want the terminals exposed to chain that might be knocking up against it. I'm not sure what the reason is, but if I put it up here, I'm going to put an IP enclosure around it. The other thing is I could put it back. This is the area where my electrical panel is, where my bus bars are and the selector switch. So all this is in the panel. So if there's room inside, I may put the selector switch back here. And then all I have to run forward are the control wire, number 14 control wires to the forward remote. So as you can see, I'm showing right now a rear remote. So it's going to be definitely two places where I can operate it with a remote. So in addition to those details that I just explained, I do have a couple of questions, and maybe you people have been down this road. On this model, and there's other models, it appears that I would have the same question. It looks like the bolts that hold this down have to come up from underneath. You don't drop them from above, because I don't see like a foot where there's a flange around the windlass with bolt holes. I mean, obviously the template shows them, but it looks like they're actually under the unit. So my question is, I guess you need bolts that are the exact length for the thickness that you're going through. I think it comes with bolts. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But if I raise this up 2 inches, plus my deck is probably at least 3/4 of an inch, if not 1 inch. I mean, my boat is really overbuilt, and there's no balsa core. It's got that I don't know what it is, some type of plastic core. It's probably not plastic, some kind of poly something, but they use that as a core material. And this was built back in like early 1980s. So it was pretty much ahead of its time without, for not using balsa core. So I'm not worried about that, even though when I drill it, I'll just put just a thin coat of epoxy over that raw area, that rough cut area. So anyway, that's one of my questions for you people that have done it. Obviously, did you have to really do an accurate measurement and then buy the bolts to make sure you got the right length, or did you just stack up a bunch of washers if it was too long? Obviously, if it's too short, it's not going to work. The other question I have, originally I was thinking about getting 1 inch thick starboard material and then stacking that up. That way I wouldn't have to worry about teak degrading over time. This would be permanent. But I read where epoxy and 3M 5200 does not stick to starboard, and my plan would be to bed that down because first of all the deck has a little bit of a crown to it, so I would have to build one part up with maybe fiberglass or epoxy, and then seat the whole thing down with either 5200 or more epoxy. So is that your experience where starboard just doesn't stick to epoxy? Obviously, I could use just some other type of sealant just so water doesn't get under it, but I was hoping actually to make it a fairly permanent installation. So if any of you had experience here, I would appreciate it. Like I said, give me comments on the anything, especially the model, the Windlass. I've looked at Maxwell, I've looked at Muir, I've looked at Lofren's, and I've looked at a few others. But in terms of comments and reviews, it would appear those three that are kind of in my price range seem to be of the better quality. Muir and Lofren's are significantly more money than the Maxwell, and I'm not sure I really want to spend that much money. We're talking about at least $600 more, if not $1,500 more. Some are very expensive windlasses, so I don't want to be foolish about it and throw good money against something that's low quality. But anyway, you won't hurt my feelings. Give me your comments. I really do appreciate it. Sometime this winter, I do want to go down, take a bunch of cardboard with me to the boat, make some templates so I get the base right and get it angled right, so I can start doing some of that wood fabrication here and then in the spring just have a lot less to do in terms of cutting and fitting to get it. Just, I can just screw everything down, drill the holes, run the wire, and who knows if it's I may buy this. I may buy this stuff by late November or December, and if it's a warm day in the wintertime, go down and just maybe run wiring, things like that. Just try to get some of it done. But I'm sure this will be at least 3 trips to the boat to get this functional and get it working. Okay, thanks a lot. You have a great day.